how's it going, guys? And welcome to the newest and hottest show on No Holds Barred Wrestling Podcast. I am Corporate Cappy, and this is the first installment of The Spotlight, the show where I, your corporate co-host, will highlight a certain superstar's path to greatness and give you an in-depth background of just how far they have come to become the WWE superstar that they are today. This episode of The Spotlight is broadcasted on Spreaker Radio, and then later it is posted on our YouTube page in full at youtube.com/NHBWR. I am your host for today, the blissful boss, Mr. Corporate himself, Corporate Cappy. You can follow me on Twitter at Corporate Cappy, and you can follow the podcast at No Holds Barred WP, where we encourage your thoughts and questions to be read on our weekly live show called The Lowdown Show. Other than that, welcome to all of my fellow corporate sellouts out there, and thank you for tuning into the podcast today. In this first episode of The Spotlight, like I highlighted in the beginning, we will basically be going over a certain superstar that has recently caught our eye, or that has, achieved something great, and that we want to highlight and show how far they have come as a superstar, and kind of like they're building their way up through developmental and just through their lives in general. So today, I'm going to be highlighting one of my girls, whatever you want to call her. You can call her Little Miss Bliss, you can call her the Wicked Witch of WWE, the Harley Quinn, the Goddess, 5 Feet of Fury, whatever you want to call her. She is now the Raw Women's Champion. Most recently this Sunday by beating Bayley in her hometown of San Jose, California. And if you're wondering why I picked that entrance music or theme music to start the show, that was brought to you by Loxley, and that is called The Whip. That is because it is the Columbus Blue Jackets goal song. Alexa Bliss is a big hockey fan and a big Columbus Blue Jackets fan, being from Columbus, Ohio herself. So I figured that'd be a nice tribute for her with the opening theme. And I'm sure she probably played it after she won the Raw Women's title, probably. I don't know. But either way, we'll just jump right into it. So we're going to give you a little bit background, and then we'll go into NXT, and then her way up through the main roster. So her real name is Alexis Kaufman. So her first name wasn't that much different than what they gave her in WWE, but they added the Bliss at the end. She was born August 9th, 1991, in, like I said, Bliss, Ohio. We're going to call it from now on. So she's 25 years old, 1 year older than I am. So Alexa's been a fierce competitor her whole entire life, participating in softball, track, and kickboxing since her youth, and excelling especially in gymnastics, where she eventually became a Division I cheerleader. Alexa even entered the world competitive bodybuilding, where she became one of the youngest competitors to receive her IFBB professional status. She has also competed in the Arnold Classic. So, as you can see, she has a very much athletic background, and she's always been, sports and competition's always been a part of her life, which, probably goes hand in hand with her fierce attitude and competitiveness, even though she's only 5'1". Small but fierce, like she always says. Not many people know, at age 15, Alexis also suffered from a life-threatening eating disorder, but bodybuilding helped her overcome that. And there's also I think it's about a 12 to 15 minute long video on YouTube, and it's showcasing just her parents talking about her and how she overcame the eating disorder, and she almost died. She was less than 24 hours away from dying before they finally admitted her to the hospital. It's pretty incredible for her to come back from that and to look like she is now, and to be as healthy as she is now. It's really incredible. And where we'd be without Alexa Bliss, or never knowing her, that would have been a shame for the women's division. So she's here, and a little bit more. I gotta pull it up here. Where is it? Yeah, I'm botching already, guys. It's my first solo show here, so you're gonna have to bear with me. All right. So she was officially signed in WWE in May 2013, where she reported to the WWE developmental NXT territory. She was trained by Norman Smiley, former WCW superstar. And if you go back and watch the video on WWE.com, she highlights that she literally just went on WWE.com one day and saw, "Do you want to become a WWE superstar?" And she said yes, clicked it, and went through it, sent in a tape, and they liked what they saw, and her family moved down to Orlando, which shockingly, she loves Disney. To any of you that don't know, so she went down there all the time as a child, and her parents did want to move down there eventually, so it just kind of worked out that they all moved down there to Orlando. Um, After that, on July 24th episode of NXT, she made her television appearance congratulating the inaugural NXT Women's Champion, Kyle Masters' girl, Paige. In August, she was added to WWE.com's NXT roster and assigned the ring name Alexa Bliss. So there's that. She officially made her in-ring debut in September 20th, 2013. Then she was acted as an unnamed ring announcer for the November 20th episode of NXT. Her first television appearance on the main roster came at WrestleMania 30. I believe it was 30. Yep. On April 6th, 2014, when she played a part in Triple H's entrance. So for you guys that don't know, Triple H had three kind of servants around his king throne against Daniel Bryan. And oddly enough, the three people were Charlotte Flair, Alexa Bliss, and Sasha Banks. So two of my favorites there were servants to Triple H with masks on for his entrance at WrestleMania. So that was technically her first sniff of the main roster at WrestleMania, even though it was only in a very minor role. She made her television in-ring debut on May 8th of NXT, competing in a tournament for the vacant NXT Women's Championship. She defeated former Divas champion Alexa Bliss in the first, Alicia Fox, the beautiful Alicia Fox, in the first round, but then lost to Charlotte in the semifinals. So another, I guess that was the first time that her and Charlotte crossed paths after their encounter, besides their encounter at WrestleMania as Triple H's servants. On June 19th episode of NXT, Bliss defeated Sasha Banks despite interference from Charlotte and Summer Rae. So that was their first encounter with Sasha Banks, and we all know the history between them. I guess Alexa had her nose broken by Sasha in a match, and there was some kind of beef for that. I don't know if they've come to terms with that now, being so long ago, but it seems like they still, storyline or not, on camera or not, have a disdain for each other just by their promos the last couple weeks on TV. So it's been really intense, and it actually looks like there's a legit, I guess, rivalry there. And I mean, sadly enough for me, because they're both my girls, but so yeah, that was the first encounter with Sasha Banks. And after some hiatus from the ring due to a legitimate injury, which was not disclosed, Bliss returned to an NXT episode of NXT on March 11th, where she defeated Carmella. So her and Carmella also were called up together to the main roster. So they have been friends down there in NXT for a while, and this was their first encounter in the ring. The following week of NXT, she defeated NXT champion Sasha Banks by countout in a non-title match, which led to Bliss being granted a championship match against Banks on March 25th episode of NXT, which she lost. And I'm pretty sure that was the match where she had her nose broken, if I can remember. And also during this, she came out as a glitter gimmick. Her first gimmick was a sparkle glitter gimmick, and it was like a PG version of her song Now, and it was very kid-oriented. I don't know. I wasn't a fan of it back then, even though, I mean, she was gorgeous, but she came out in her, little skirt on, little dress, and it just wasn't getting over, in my opinion. And I think finally, which led to this next part I'm going to talk about, led to her great heel turn and basically what catapulted her to become the character she is today. On May 13th episode of NXT, Bliss defeated Carmella after the NXT Tag Team Champions Buddy Murphy and Wesley Blake set up a distraction. On May 20th at NXT TakeOver Unstoppable, Bliss helped Blake and Murphy retain the NXT Tag Team Championships over Enzo and Big Cass, who was managed by Carmella at the time, forcing an alliance with them and turning into a villainous character in the process. So this was the official heel turn of Sasha Banks. Alexa Bliss. And she teamed up with Buddy Murphy and Wesley Blake and became their full-time manager, which for a while kind of held her back because she was really put in this managerial role instead of being an in-ring competitor. But it did help her in her character development. It really helped her with her new attitude, her new persona, the way she went about things. It really was a needed turn for Alexa Bliss, and I'm so glad that they did it because now she's taken it and ran with it. Getting back to the NXT, on July 29th episode of NXT, Bliss helped Blake and Murphy retain the NXT Tag Team Championships against the Vaudevillains, Aiden English and Simon Gotch. Wow. Remember when those guys were relevant? And slapped both Aiden English and Gotch after the match. The Vaudevillains were granted a rematch against Blake and Murphy at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, which they won after Blue Pants. Remember Blue Pants? Wow. I have to take a sip of water after that one. That's a name from the past. Stopped Bliss from providing a distraction during the match. That led to a singles match. Didn't lead to much after that. Throughout October and November, Bliss started a feud with Bayley over the NXT Women's Championship. After Bliss interrupted Bayley's celebration about her match on NXT TakeOver Respect on October 7th, confronting her and stating she has her sights on the championship. After Bliss lost to Bayley in a 6-person mixed tag match, the two faced off in the main event November 18th episode of NXT, where Bliss was unsuccessful in capturing the championship. So she's getting some sniffs at the title, and she's getting a few singles matches here and there, but she's really, her main focus, it seems, for a while was based solely on keeping the titles on Blake and Murphy. So, I mean, she did get a match with Bayley, but it just seemed like she wasn't gaining any momentum with her singles career, and even though her character was developing, she wasn't gaining anywhere in the women's division in NXT. There was so much talent there at the time, and she was kind of put on the back burner as far as I'm concerned. On January 13th, 2016 episode of NXT, Bliss competed in the number one contenders Battle Royal, which was won by Carmella. After Blake and Murphy lost to Aries and Shinsuke Nakamura on a May 18th episode of NXT, Bliss and Blake abandoned Murphy, officially disbanding the trio. Now that's interesting because Alexa Bliss is the real-life girlfriend of Buddy Murphy, so the fact that her and Blake left Murphy is interesting twist storyline-wise. I don't know how Blake or Murphy must have thought about that in real life, but it was only for storyline purposes. And on May 25th episode of NXT, Bliss competed in a triple threat match against Carmella and Nia Jax to determine the number one contender for Asuka's NXT Women's Championship at the end on June 8th, which was won by Nia Jax. So we all know Nia Jax's dominance in NXT. She finally got a chance at the NXT Women's Championship at that TakeOver the end. And then we skip all the way to August 17th episode of NXT. Bliss competed in a 6-woman tag team match along with Daria Baronato and Mandy Rose, in which they were defeated by Carmella, Liv Morgan, and Nikki Glencross, which is, of course, Nikki Cross, of Sanity. And that would honestly actually be her last match in NXT on August 17th. So as you see, her run in NXT, her character was great, but she wasn't really given that, pun intended, the spotlight that she was needed at as a singles competitor. She was always with Blake and Murphy, and it was always about them keeping the titles. And then when she would get a singles match, it wouldn't be much, or she'd lose, or she wouldn't be building any major storylines with any of the girls besides Carmella, who was with Enzo and Cass. So it all played hand in hand with the tag teams. So I think that she had a lot more to give in NXT, and I don't think people gave her enough credit, or they didn't give her enough exposure to showcase what she was able to do in the ring. And I think that's why she took a lot of people by storm when she was called up to the main roster, because nobody really expected her to be at the level that she is, or she didn't have the hype behind her like the Four Horsewomen did coming up together. Nothing like that. She was just kind of seen as this, another just spot filler in the women's division. But she's proved everybody wrong for that. And we'll get on to SmackDown. After she was drafted to NXT, to the SmackDown brand as a part of the 2016 WWE Draft. And I was pretty hyped when I saw this. Her and Carmella both got called up at the same time. And the emotion on Alexa's face when they showed her in NXT live being drafted, you could just see the elation on her face to finally get to the level or get that opportunity that she wants at the highest level. And it was really great. And she made her debut on July 26th, where she confronted Becky Lynch before being interrupted by other female competitors. Now, this was the first episode of SmackDown Live, not named the Draft, and we were there. It was in Buffalo, New York. So myself, Kyle Masters, and No Cell Phil, former co-host of the show, were at this event. So I was there for Alexa Bliss's debut on the main roster, even though she did not compete. I made an Excellence is Bliss sign, and I brought it to that event. And she liked it on Twitter, which was really cool. I marked out pretty hard when I saw that. And I held it up when she came out, even though she only got like a 10-second entrance, because all the females just came out simultaneously and kind of confronted Becky Lynch for being the number one overall pick for the women's division. So that was pretty awesome that we were there for that. And honestly, I was the only one cheering for Alexa Bliss that night, because I don't think many people really had known what she was about in NXT, because they just didn't see enough of her. And I'm glad people are really getting behind her now. Bliss achieved her first victory on the main roster by defeating Becky Lynch after she replaced Eva Marie in a match on August 9th episode of SmackDown Live. And then Bliss made her pay-per-view debut at SummerSlam on August 21st in a 6-woman tag match, where she teamed with Natty and the returning Nikki Bella in a winning effort over Becky Lynch, Carmella, and Naomi. And then Bliss debuted a new look on September 11th, where it was kind of a Harley Quinn-based Suicide Squad look, which, I mean, it was awesome. And kind of getting away from her NXT persona for a bit. Then she also competed in the 6-pack elimination challenge to determine the inaugural SmackDown Women's Champion, which was won by Becky Lynch. I think Alexa was the first one eliminated in this match, actually. I remember being pretty pissed off about that. On September 13th episode of SmackDown, Bliss eventually won a fatal 5-way match by pinning Nikki Bella to earn the SmackDown Women's Championship match against Becky Lynch at No Mercy on October 9th. And I remember this match because Carmella had done the dirty work on Nikki Bella, and then Alexa just kind of came in at the end, threw Carmella out, took her opportunity, and became the number one contender. So that was pretty awesome. And then due to Lynch suffering a legitimate injury, the match was rescheduled for November 8th November 8th episode of SmackDown, where Lynch successfully defended the title against Bliss. November 18th episode of SmackDown, Charlotte Flair appeared at ringside in a match between Carmella and Nikki Bella, which ensued in the Brawl, which the SmackDown Live women's team came down for the save, which led to the Survivor Series 5-on-5 women's elimination match at Survivor Series, um, and that was also in Toronto, where Kyle Masters and myself were there for that, and I brought a sign that said Banks and Bliss. So I was cheering for both my girls, even though they were fighting for the first time on the main roster. Not exactly one-on-one, but in the same match. It was 5-on-5 elimination style. She went on to lose. I believe her and Becky were the final two on the SmackDown team before it was eventually won by Bayley and Charlotte, leading to their feud. And then on December 4th at TLC, Bliss had a match with Becky Lynch in a tables match for the SmackDown Women's Championship, and she defeated Becky Lynch to become the second ever SmackDown Women's Champion and winning her first title ever as a part of WWE, NXT, or main roster. Such a proud moment for her being able to do that. I mean, not even really getting a sniff at the Women's Championship in NXT, and then coming up to the main roster and having such good progression her first 3 months being as a rookie, and then for them to give her the title like that right away really showed how much faith and trust they had in her because of how much work that she had put into her run so far. I mean, it was incredible. And for our Slammies, for our No Holds Barred Slammies at the end of last year, we gave Alexa Bliss our Rookie of the Year. It wasn't even close. I mean, Bayley was also called up, but she didn't really have much momentum yet. They were kind of doing a slow build with Bayley. And I honestly said on that podcast that if it was a full year, I would have given Alexa Bliss the Woman of the Year, not even just Rookie, because her progression for those first 3 months was incredible. The way that she, her character development, just the way that her mic skills were incredible. Her in-ring skill, like, she's a good wrestler. I'm not saying she's Charlotte, Naomi, Sasha Banks-esque wrestler in ring, but she's a safe worker, she's a good worker, and her in-ring ability is good enough to get her by with probably the best gimmick / mic work in the women's division, period. It reminds me of back in the day, my favorite of all time, Trish Stratus, heel Trish. She reminds me just the way her mannerisms, the way that her just facial expressions, the way she carries herself. It reminds me so much of how good heel Trish was back then, and doing it at 5'1" and kind of making everybody believe that she's a legitimate contender, and she's small but fierce, even though she's 5'1". She's someone to be taken seriously, and winning her first SmackDown Women's Championship was just an incredible accomplishment for her. I believe her parents were there. To see her wrestle for the first time and see her win that championship. So it was really good, feel-good story for her and her family, even though she also makes fun of Bayley for all these, fairy tale storybook endings nowadays with her character, so it's kind of funny. I'm looking at it right now. I have Alexa Bliss's plaque from that event on my wall with the ring canvas on it, so I had to get that for winning her first championship. Anyway, getting back into more of the story, on January 17th episode of SmackDown, Bliss successfully defended her championship against Becky Lynch in a steel cage match due to interference from the returning Mickie James. So this was an interesting dynamic where they brought Mickie James into the fold as Alexa Bliss's kind of mentor, so to speak, and it's a funny bridge because Mickie James had a great feud with Trish Stratus, who is Alexa Bliss's one of Alexa Bliss's inspirations to becoming a wrestler. So she got to kind of be with somebody that Trish was with. So I'm sure that really was nostalgic for her, and that led to their alliance facing against Becky Lynch. And then on February 12th, Bliss dropped the championship to Naomi at Elimination Chamber. which did not make any sense to me whatsoever. I don't know why they had Naomi come back just to drop the title, or Naomi return here to win it, when they should have saved that for Naomi to win it in her hometown of Orlando. To me, it just made no sense giving Alexa that short of a title run for nothing. And then why my prediction would have made sense is because Naomi was forced to vacate the title due to an injury on February 21st. So barely 10 days later, Naomi had to forfeit the title after an injury she sustained in that match. So it would have just made sense for her not even to win the title at all and just keep it on Alexa until WrestleMania. To me, that really grinded my gears. I don't know about you guys, but that really made no sense for Naomi to win the championship at Elimination Chamber. So then Bliss defeated Becky Lynch by, I'm pretty sure it was a roll-up, to win the title and become a two-time SmackDown Women's Champion already. And I believe the first two-time SmackDown Women's Champion. So she is also gaining a lot of first-time accolades as well along the way, and establishing herself to be in that conversation with the Four Horsewomen. Absolutely. And then Mickie James and Alexa Bliss's partnership dissolved shortly after, when the two would face off in a match, with James defeating Bliss after they had won a tag match, and Bliss kind of tagged herself in to get the win when Mickie James had done all the work. And then after the match, she just gave her like the biggest Mick kick out of nowhere, which ended their partnership and Mickie coming for the title, this and that. And then on April 2nd, Bliss lost the championship at WrestleMania to Naomi in a six-pack challenge involving Mickie James, Carmella, Natalya, and Becky Lynch. This match was really supposed to be on the pre-show, and then there was a huge outrage from the WWE Universe on Twitter to have if the Raw women get a chance, the SmackDown women should be getting a chance, because they have arguably done better work as a whole division than Raw's the women's division had since the brand split. So WWE said they found time. Meanwhile, they said it had nothing to do with the outcry from the fans. But then when it came to the match, they only got about 5 minutes. It was right before the main event, and it just seemed very rushed. They barely got any other entrances. Alexa, I was expecting some big entrance as her coming in as the champion. She had the first entrance, and she just came out, and it looked like they were making her rush to the ring. She just kind of held her title in her little pose, and that was it. No big entrance from Alexa Bliss as the champion in WrestleMania, which I'm sure was a huge moment for her, being in her first match at WrestleMania, and I feel like they took that, they spoiled that opportunity for a lot of these women in that match, which was unfortunate. And she would go on to lose the title to Naomi, like I said, in Orlando, and tapping out. Naomi should have just won it here. It made no sense for her to win it at Elimination Chamber. So that makes Alexa and Naomi both two-time SmackDown Women's champions, when it could have just been that, that crowning moment for Naomi at WrestleMania. But either way, she was unsuccessful in recapturing the title in a subsequent rematch on the April 4th episode of SmackDown Live, which was right away, and it was right after they had announced that there was going to be a superstar shakeup. So I think everybody knew that she was going to get a quick rematch, and unfortunately for me, that meant she was probably going to Monday Night Raw, as she'd kind of already done all that she can do on SmackDown, especially with Naomi beating her for the title twice now. It kind of hurt her a little bit, even though she was the MVP of that division, bar none, and she was the top heel, and kind of took charge of that women's division on SmackDown Live for since the brand split up until the Superstar Shakeup, which I think really hurt the women's division, because on SmackDown, that is, because they gave up Alexa Bliss and Mickie James and got back Charlotte. Which, I mean, Charlotte's good and all, but after what they're doing to her, turning her face now, it just kind of seems like I've lost a little bit of excitement for SmackDown, because I felt like they lost a really good personality, a really good heel in Alexa. And Charlotte is a good heel, but they're turning her baby face. So you've got three heels down there of Tamina, Tamina, Natalya, and Carmella. And to me, that just I don't know. It doesn't excite me, but I'm getting off track. And then on April 10th episode of Raw, Bliss made her first appearance on Raw after being drafted as a part of the Superstar Shakeup, confronting a segment between Bayley and Sasha Banks. I was praying, please God, let me not hear her music during this segment. And Sasha was talking, and all I hear is that music. And if you've ever seen Ralph Wiggum in Simpsons when Lisa breaks his heart, and Bart's showing the replay of it, that was me, and I was very upset the fact that they were both on the same show. Um, I had a little bit of hope that maybe Sasha would get drafted to SmackDown, which ended up not happening the night after. So, unfortunately, Alexa will be going to Monday Night Raw to eventually feud with Bayley, Sasha Banks, the rest of the women's division. Um, and it's a shame because she's going to Raw now, and I just finished school 2 weeks ago where I had to miss her on Tuesdays almost every week. So I didn't even get to appreciate and see all of her work all the time due to having night class on Tuesday nights. So, of course, she goes over to Raw now when I've been able to watch Raw for the whole semester. But that's the corporate life, I guess. And then a week later, Bliss defeated Banks, Mickie James, and Nia Jax in a fatal four-way to become the number one contender for the Raw Women's Championship, where Nia Jax had basically dominated and destroyed everybody in the match, and she gave Sasha Banks a Samoan drop and was about to go for the pin. Alexa comes out of nowhere, drop kicks her out of the ring, and is able to pick up the 3 count before Nia can get back up. So she takes another opportune time to come in and win a number one contender match previously, and now a number one contender match here. So she's done it multiple times, and she's proving her smarts and her worth as a very good heel, an opportunistic heel that will just come in and take advantage when she has to. And then on April 30th at Payback, Bliss defeated Bayley to become the new Raw Women's Champion. Wow. Already, Alexa Bliss has not even been on the Raw roster for a month, and she has been given the Raw Women's Championship from Bayley in Bayley's hometown of San Jose, California. Her hero's welcome and hero's return, and it was spoiled by Alexa Bliss, as she said she would do on the great promo before Payback, where she said the glass slipper will no longer fit, and the clock strikes midnight, and the fairy tale is going to be over for Bayley and her hug life and her hug section. And I think it was a well-needed change, even though Alexa it's kind of early to give her the championship, but I think they realized that she has been so good that they kind of have to give her the championship. She's pushed her way in there in the conversation to say, you know what, she needs to have the title already, because Bayley, let's be real. I know there are a lot of Bayley fans out there, including Kyle Masters and a couple other people that watch this show. But her first run was bad. Let's be realistic. They ruined it. They should have had Bayley win it at WrestleMania and break Charlotte's undefeated pay-per-view streak there. They didn't. And her first run was just bad. They watered down her character, and they really need to have her, and they had her still acting like an underdog as the champion, which did not make any sense. I don't know. I think it was a well-needed change, even though it was a bit early, and Alexa becomes the first SmackDown and Raw Women's Champion, so adding another first time to her resume. And who would have thought that a year ago that Alexa Bliss would be the first two-time SmackDown Women's Champion and the first to hold both the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships. I wasn't, even as a Bliss fit myself, I was not expecting this. But well deserved for Alexa Bliss. Everything that I've talked about in this episode today, just her promos are just amazing, and the way she plays with the crowd. A couple weeks ago, where they were whatting her, or they were serenading her with the what chant, and she said, "If Alexa Bliss is the best, say what." And they said what, and she said exactly. So just being able to improvise. And just having that great personality and character that people can get behind. She's becoming one of the fan favorites in the women's division now. When she got called up, she really didn't have much of a reaction. And that's all credit to her, man. She has really pushed down the door and made everybody believe that she can be a major player in this women's division for many years to come and not have to have so much hype behind her like the four horsewomen came in having. You can do it if you put your mind to it and put the work in your promos, in your in-ring work, in your personality. And it shows now, and this is a perfect example of this. So for any of the girls down in NXT who you don't think that will make it because they didn't hold a title in NXT or they weren't popular in NXT, if they're given the chance on the main roster, anything can happen. And Alexa Bliss is a perfect example of that, and a true shining star in the women's division, diamond in the rough that they found. And she deserves everything that she has gotten already and that will come to her in the future. Hopefully, that will lead to more championships down the road, maybe main eventing a pay-per-view or something like that she hasn't done yet, that Charlotte and Sasha have. I think that Alexa deserves to be in that conversation with those girls as well. Just a few other notes. She made her video game debut in 2K17. I expect her to have a big role in 2K18. Maybe even a better entrance and probably a way better overall than what she was rated in 2K17. I have no idea what she was rated, but she better be one of the highest rated women now, or I will be very blissed off. She's an avid Disney fan, like I said, and she attributes that to her family's annual trips down to Disneyland, starting at age 3. And then she's a huge fan of the Columbus Blue Jackets, which I've stated, and why I picked their goal song as the intro for this podcast. She has cited Trish Stratus and Rey Mysterio as her influences in wrestling. And in January 2017, it broke my heart, and I'm sure a lot of other fanboys' hearts out there, that it was revealed that Kaufman is engaged to fellow wrestler Matthew Adams, better known as Buddy Murphy from NXT. So they were dating, and now they are engaged. So congratulations to them. Buddy Murphy, you're a hell of a lucky guy, man. I'm sure there's a reason why she said yes. Maybe you'll get called up to the main roster someday and be with her. As of now, I don't know what you're doing in NXT, man. You got to figure it out. Other than that, that is the rundown of Alexis Kaufman, a.k.a. Alexa Bliss's I'm going to title this From Valet to Rob Women's to Face of the Women's Division. From Valet to Face of the Women's Division. I think that's a fair statement, especially with what she's doing now on Raw, and Charlotte's kind of taking a back seat on SmackDown and kind of having a transition, or a character transition, so I think it's going to be a little bit for her. But I think Alexa Bliss is doing the best work in the women's division right now. I do think biasly that Sasha Banks could be on that level if they turn her into the badass character that she was in NXT as the boss gimmick. It was just so much better as a heel, guys. You guys can all agree with me. And maybe that way my two girls don't have to feud together. Maybe they can become a tag team and beat up on Bayley. I mean, that'd be great. I'd love that. But only a corporate guy can dream, right? So I think that's gonna be about it for this episode of the Spotlight, or the first installment of the Spotlight. If you liked what you heard, please hit that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and feel free to leave any corporate or constructive comments down below. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at NoHoldsBarredWP, or on Spreaker. Until next time, my fellow corporate sellouts, I'm your host, the blissful boss, Mr. Corporate himself, Corporate Cappy. And, we got a little technical difficulties here. And I'm always here warning you to never bliss me off.